one of my leaders in ministry. And so she said, I have a sister there. Her name is Kay Kaiser. It would be wise for you to reach out to her. And I thought, why? What would I say? That's kind of strange. But I'm used to that because that's how the Lord operates. He tells you to do strange things. The Bible's full of stories that are strange, right? Praise God for that. So I reached out. I went through all 100 people, finally found Miss Kaiser, and we exchanged information. And then years later, we would find out we'd be in the same ministry where Valerie would be our leader. And then from there, we would make more of a connection with each other. And then we would start to write for some of the same books, which we write for anthologies. Anthologies are books where you submit one chapter. There's one chapter by different authors, right? And so at first that seemed kind of strange because when the first one got published, it was like people would say, so you're an author. Like, well, I'm a co-author because I didn't want to take credit for something. It was only one chapter, right? Then I had somebody say, do you know what the first anthology ever written was? The first anthology ever written was the Bible. Look at how many authors we have with the Bible, right? And if we took out the smallest book of the Bible, it would completely change the whole Bible, wouldn't it? Right? So we never discount small beginnings or small portions of things that you are a part of. Because without you putting your small part, it would change everything else. So moving forward, after Kay writing for some of the anthologies, she then asked the Lord one day, Father, can I have my own anthology? And so he gave her Faces of Foster Care. And we would have 3 volumes that would come out, and we have a 4th one that is to be determined when it'll be released, but we're looking at a release date for October. So if we have anybody that would like to write, please see one of us, and we would love to have your stories in there. So we're going to get started now, but thank you.
Really happy to see all of you all here. My name is Dr. Kay Kaiser, and I'm going to say first and foremost that I am a follower of Yahweh. I refer to him as, because every God has a name, right? And so my God's name is Yahweh. Very happy about how the Lord has literally just put all of us together. Of course, you all have seen the introduction of everyone, and each one of us are going to have a few moments to say something. So again, I'm just excited to see the room full. I'm probably sure there's even more that wanted to come on in here. If we had more space, we would take them all. I primarily wanted to let you all know that I'm a chaplain. I'm also the visionary author. Welcome. The visionary author of these 3 books, and they are titled The Faces of Foster Care. They are international books as well. We have one author that is actually from Greece, and so his chapter is in there as well. I'm a foster alumni. I was actually born into the foster care system. And I'm a parent, a grandparent, and I have one great-grandson. He just turned 2 one weekend ago. And I wanted to just take time to share with you all my why of what I do for the Faces of Foster Care and just foster care generally. Like I said, I was born into the foster care system. And one of the things that the Lord has blessed me with is a nonprofit, and it's titled Kay's Carry On. And this came about because I'm an Army veteran. When I aged out, I actually joined the Army. So I'm excited to know that I was doing what I needed to do for Uncle Sam, but right now I'm doing what I need to be doing for my Lord and my Savior. I'm serving. I was serving then, but I'm serving even more so now for Christ. And my why of Kay's Carry On is about when I was in the foster care system, there were always this issue of children's personal items were placed in a trash bag. I'm sick of that. I mean, I'm just tired of it. I really pray that one day that we will just literally do away with that idea. So I went to a military women's veteran retreat in Galveston, Texas. And while I was there speaking with my counselor, sharing with her about my personal life as a child, growing up in that system, and what brought about, what birthed Kay's Carry On is the fact that the Lord had gave me this creative idea about giving brand new rolling luggage to foster youth, giving them dignity, hope, and respect. And that's what the Lord wants for all of our children, whether they're in foster care or not, because guess what? We all travel with a piece of luggage. That's the way we're supposed to travel. Can you just like close your eyes for a moment and just imagine what it would feel like if you went to the train station, Greyhound bus, or get on the plane, and you hand them your trash bag? What kind of response are you going to get when that happens? Anybody can say whatever. I'd love to hear what you all have to say, so go ahead and share with me. How do you think that person is going to respond? Yes, ma'am.
Very dehumanized.
Definitely, I agree. Yes, yes. Anyone else? Oh, definitely, I agree. Disgust. Yes, yes, yes. You are so correct about all of that. So the retreat is what actually caused Kay's Carry On to come forth, because on my third session with that veteran counselor, this creative idea came to me about giving foster youth dignity by giving them rolling luggage, which means even a 3-year-old, which I did bring a piece up here, just so you all would see how small that is. Little people love to carry their own piece of luggage. So I have a grandson who's 5, and he's just impressed. Of course, I gave it to him, and I've been also introducing him to Christ, and so I put like a Bible in there, because when I was growing up in the foster care system, no one introduced me to Christ. Can you imagine being born into the foster care system, this little bitty person, you're moving from home to home. And I even read my records that even as an infant, I moved 3 times. Who moves a baby 3 times? That's what I experienced. And then growing up and not knowing Christ at all. No one even mentioned his name unless they were cursing in the home. And of course, you know how people use his name in vain like that. So the trash bags, unfortunately, are the norm. And the Lord blessed me, of course, through that veteran retreat. And I have to admit that even though I didn't know what I was doing, when I aged out, signed on the dotted line, became the property of Uncle Sam, I did not know what I was doing at that time. I really didn't, because when you're 18, do you really know? I don't know who came up with the idea that 18-year-olds are adults, but you know what? No, I'm not in agreement with that. We need to we need to pass a law causing that number to go up and not be 18. But, you know, for sure, I would say at least 21. Let that be the norm. I wanted to share with you all that these children, they feel a loss of dignity, stability, and self-worth. It truly causes children to feel worthless. These children are already experiencing trauma, grief, anxiety, and other strong emotions, such as being abandoned by their parents or inadequate, and that closes them off and causes them to react angrily. And I actually teach for a school district. I live farther north here in Florida. And when children act out in the classroom, I know what the problem is. More than likely, they are in the foster care system or they're not being heard at home. And so they act out. And so I've been able to really zone in on that. The Lord has blessed me to be able to realize that when a child is behaving like that in the classroom, that more than likely there's something not correct at home. One of the things that I must admit that I loved when I did join the military is that they packed everything properly in my bags. The military don't use trash bags. If they do, it's for trash only. But they actually gave me the correct rucksack, the backpacks and all that kind of stuff. Everything was folded in there the way it's supposed to be. But then when children come into foster care, they just open up the bag and they just throw the items in, which means, that means that your items mean nothing. That's just their way of collecting it up real quickly and getting it to where you're going to be going. So some of the things that I also do with Kay's Carry On is when we age out, children need to, I'm going to say the teenagers, as they're graduating from high school and then they're getting ready to go and move into their own place. One of the things I love the most is collecting like irons and crock pots and coffee makers, any small appliances, because when we move in to our new place, we have nothing. Where do you get those things? And so that's a part of Kay's Carry On as well, as making sure that those young people have those small appliances. Because, some young people still, they want to make their own cup of coffee, even if they have to use a Keurig. That's very helpful. So those are things that I give them as well. On the inside of their luggage, I make sure that they get like toiletries, school supplies, stuffed animal, and of course I always give everyone a Bible. And something I've noticed that even the teenagers love is they want that blanket. I'm in my 60s and I still love having my blanket. Wrap it around me. That's what the ladies in the room with me, they're going like, are you cold? No, it's just I love my blankets. So that's primarily what I wanted to share with you all today. I wanted just to give you a little piece, if I may. Share with me, ladies, if I'm staying on task time-wise. Okay. Okay, very good. I wanted to share just a little piece of my book. It's not my book, but I'm going to say my very first anthology that I wrote in. And I want to encourage everyone to write their story. And this is whether you grew up in foster care or not. We all need to leave a legacy, right? And so my very first story, and I had a difficult time writing it, is titled Overcomer. And I just want to give you all just a snippet of why I wrote and how healing it's been. And it's exciting to know that your chapter is in a book where someone can actually pick it up and start reading it. So I wrote on here that I am an overcomer. I know that you're asking, what is an overcomer? The definition, a person who overcomes something, one who succeeds in dealing with or gaining control of some problem or difficulty. According to God's word, an overcomer is a person who defeats someone or something in a conflict or a struggle. A scripture that I lean on about overcoming is Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I think about how my mother must have felt when she learned that she was pregnant. She was a 19-year-old university student who was going to school on a scholarship and was literally dismayed about learning this unwelcome news. Before legalized abortion in the U.S., teen pregnancy was definitely a no-no and had to be kept secret. In the 1960s, expectant mothers lost their jobs and could no longer attend school if their news got out in the community where they lived. Time has definitely changed. The Supreme Court landmark decision on June 24, 2022 is a beautiful blessing to many, especially all of the unborn babies. Let's see. Many young mothers were often sent away to homes to hide from the veil of shame during the latter months of their pregnancy. Well, that is what occurred with my birth mother. She shared her news with 3 of her older sisters, and the decision was made, and off she went. I wondered what the story she told everyone when she returned to her community, and her family members who wondered where she had been all those months. So I grew up in those foster homes, and I experienced many life traumas that children should not bump into. Sexual abuse from older foster children in the home, extreme physical beatings, emotionally beat down, incarcerated in my bedroom daily, negative words spoken into my ear gates, adult caregivers talking about me in a demeaning way, in secret but loud enough for me to hear every word that was said, which were all bad. The Cinderella syndrome, and yes, there really is such a syndrome, is where there's one child in the family that is singled out and abused while the other children are hurt or harmed. The chores were only given to me, and they had to be done perfectly. That was the toxicity that I grew up with. I did not hear the words that I would hope children of today should hear often. I love you. Hugs were not given or pats on the back with words such as well done said to me. So this is in a book, my very first anthology that I participated in. And again, I just want to invite you all to think about your own story and how you can get that out to the world. Your story is a blessing to the world. They need your story. They need to hear it. It needs to be in book form. And one of the things I like about my stories being in book form is that even when I'm no longer here on planet Earth, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, they can read about their Nana because she's in here, all three of these. So again, we are looking for brand new authors for Volume 4, Volume 5, and beyond. So again, I'm just thanking you all for coming. I just envisioned the room being just like this, just filled with all these amazing faces. So again, thank you for coming. You're going to be able to hear from, I'm going to say my other authors. I call them that because just like I'm the mama and they're my babies. So they're going to come up and you're going to hear from each one of them.
Hi everyone, good morning still. My name is Ruth Horry, and I'm here to stand in the gap for those who look like me and have had my experience. My journey started from the moment I came into this world. My mother had Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen by proxy. Anybody listen to Eminem in here? Anybody know about his mom? That's my mom. And so it's funny because I talk about my story all the time, but meeting Dr. K was the first time I actually wrote that down and like said that out loud to someone who wasn't in foster care, or what we'd like to term trauma bonding. And so, it's a lot because it's my story, it's not somebody else's story. So I came into the foster care system around 5. My mom dropped me and my brother off at someone's doorstep, said she was going to the school and that she would be back. She moved to Florida. And we were placed in foster care. It was kind of ironic because they placed me, my brother, and my sister, an 11-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old all in the same placement. That usually doesn't happen. Most of the time, the children will get separated. So we were really fortunate to get placed together. Once my mother found out that she would lose her benefits if she didn't have her children, she wanted them again. And so we were flown down to Florida. When I reached the age of 12 and had a sense of direction, I found my way back to New York. I was a runaway from about 12 to 14, where I got arrested for being a runaway because they were trying to tackle that at the time. New York City was always a hub. You could come from anywhere in the country, just get on a bus, you got to New York City, and it was a safe space. And so because of that, they were starting to look for younger people to like kind of bring them in and find out what's going on. I was the youngest in the crowd. When I got arrested, I found out that I was pregnant. Fun stuff. And so the first thing they asked me to do was, do you want to call your mother? Absolutely not. And so I went through that process. Unfortunately, for a lot of young people, I see that that's changed now. When you're arrested and you have nowhere to go, you stay there until they figure out where you're gonna go. And for me, that turned into a 1.5 years. It wasn't because I was bad, it was because there was nowhere to go. And this was about probably 20 years ago. So there's laws that have changed. When I was experiencing this, if your parents said you couldn't go, even if they didn't have the rights or the custody, I should say, you didn't go. So there were family members calling from, oh, I'll take her, I'll take her. My mom said no. So I had my child incarceration, and I moved into a group home about 3 months later. That is only the beginning of my story. What I did from that point forward to keep my head above water and to help to fill the pieces turned into what I would become in my adult life. I now work in that same group home that I came out of. I now have helped over 500 young people fill a hole, because for every child that steps in front of that door of the foster home, of the group home, there are so many pieces that are missing from that child. And what I like to prevent is the re-traumatization of children when they enter care. So I entered care not because it was bad. I hate saying bad, because bad is like a horrible word for kids that are experiencing the impossible. I made it through that journey, and the staff, I have 15 moms, are the reason why I am the way I am today. One taught me how to make my bed, one taught me how to fry chicken, the other one taught me how to change Pampers. And so my give back is to help young people to connect to services outside of the organization that they are in, because there are so many of them. So I like to say I like to teach young people how to fish. I can give you resources all day. I love to meet people where they are in their situation. If you are falling apart and crumbling, I'm gonna get right on the ground with you, and I'm gonna pick you up, and I'm gonna do it for you. But at the moment when your legs are standing strong, I need to show you how to do it. That's what got me out of the system. I knew how to find resources, whether it was calling 311, 211, looking in the white pages, the yellow pages. I knew that there were services out there because I was introduced to care so young. And so my goal now is to help young people find those resources. So I work with 14 to 24-year-olds who've been incarcerated, who have been in foster care, adopted, or in a group home. I wrote a 10-step guide to help them to navigate through that process while they're dealing with trauma. So it's one thing to say, we have all of these resources. I would break down if a doorbell rang because of how many ACS calls we had. I just installed a doorbell probably about 3 years ago to my home. Like when Kay mentioned those garbage bags, I took them into my apartment and didn't know how to make a house a home. I never had one. So who gets the vase? Who gets the decorative pillow? Who tells you that you can take your stuff out of that container and you could put it on the shelf because you're gonna be okay? So 2 years ago, I made that change. I got rid of all the things in my house that I was holding on from that one worker who hugged me, from that one friend that I made while we were waiting at the train station to go separate ways because they were getting placed over here and I was getting placed over there. And I found a way to let go of those things, but keep the memories and keep the good parts. And so I show that. It's raw in that book. All the garbage, all the things laid out, so that young people can see what this process looks like. I also talk about making a house a home. We talk about mental health. We talk about culturally appropriate therapy. Young people need to look at a person who looks like them. They need to hear stories that sound like theirs. And so I'm gonna end with saying, I'm almost 40. I'm looking for the young people because the young people are experiencing what I experience in today's world. When I was a kid, the cell phones, it wasn't a thing. I got bullied at school, and then I went home. It was fine. It didn't continue and continue and continue and continue. One letter that I wrote to the boy that was cute 6 seats over, I can remember the teacher reading it out, but that's gone. Kids today, anything that you do, it's forever. And so I really sympathize, and I'm trying to meet young people where they are. So if you'd like to get connected with me or with the work, I left some flyers, some brochures, and I'm also going to raffle off a book today. So as you guys are seated, when the next person comes up, I'm gonna pass around some raffle tickets, and I would love for you guys to share my experience. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
So again, my introduction was Rosalind Ryder. I hail from San Antonio, Texas, but I am literally nationwide. Our organization is It's Already Done Ministries. I'm very blessed to be here as a part of faces of foster care, but I come to you as an advocate. I have not been a part of the Child Protective Service system or anything dealing with foster care. However, and I want to go ahead and just mention that we are all faith-based, okay? And so things that I want to make sure that I say is that in no given time do we want to press our belief on you. We just want to establish who we are. And because of who we are, it's been the guiding light of what has gotten us to where we are. So I do want to establish that in the event that anyone is offended, I want to make sure that I apologize respectfully, okay? So our organization is a faith-based organization. And so with that being said, our organization is titled, It's Already Done. I do believe that title was given to me so that any time in the moments where I feel overwhelmed with what I have been called to do, I don't even get a chance to whimper or complain, because I can hear that still voice that says, girl, it's already done. Figure it out. If it doesn't exist, then that means you're going to create it. And so my background is I used to do law enforcement. I worked for Texas State Prison System. I'm going to tell my age, but I did it for 25 years and retired. Along the time that I was working in the prisons, all maximum security, male and female, I also worked with the juveniles. So I would literally work with the kids at night, and then during the day, I would take care of most parents. And so from there, I knew that I wanted to go in the military. I had did junior ROTC in high school, and my father retired from the military. So we have a legacy of family members in the military. So I chose to go into the Air Force. I am still serving. I've been in for 27 years. And so right now I operate, thank you, baby. I operate right now in the chaplaincy capacity, but I started off in the medical field, and we were what is considered Aerovac. So we are the flying hospitals. Not only do we take care of military members, but we also take care of their families. And just one example was in Hawaii, we had to take a newborn baby in our military aircraft from Hawaii all the way to California, because that was the only place that they could get the service that they needed. And so I just want to take away the myth that you're not always on the front line just because you go in the military, right? But there's so many opportunities. And so if anyone in here is interested in the military, I'm an endorser. And not only do I help you, I have recruiters in place nationwide that I can help you. Any branch that you want to go to, yes, I'm Air Force, but guess what? At the end of the day, we do so much joint training. Often I'm sitting right next to a Navy person or Marine person in class. So that is an option for you if that's something you're interested in or you want to know more about it. Now, in addition to the military that I do, and I did mention that I operate in a chaplaincy capacity, when that opportunity came, they wanted me to take off a stripe, y'all. I worked very hard for my stripes. And my leadership, I know some of y'all in here have mentors or have mentors. I went to my mentor and I shared with them, they want me to take off a stripe. And her response was, you don't realize that now I'm at the top of the chain, but at one time I took off a stripe as well. But I need you to go look in the mirror and decide on why you want to take this job. As a chaplain, you have to be honest with yourself. And I'm sure there's been times in your life where you had to look in the mirror and make some decisions about your life. And if you haven't been on this earth long enough, because it's coming, right? But with that being said, that's what I did. I looked in the mirror and I said, Rosalind, why do you want this job? And I said, because we're losing too many young people. They're lost. They don't know why. There's been gaps that haven't been filled. And I know that's what I'm supposed to do. So I signed on the dotted line, y'all, to lose a stripe. But when it went before the board and I wasn't there, and all of these people had an opportunity to make a decision on my career, they said, we have read your bio, we've read your packet, which was 35 pages. And we decided you're doing more than most. And we cannot take your stripe. So I kept that stripe. And so I'm still serving. I love what I do. And so why do I bring it up? Because, this might be an opportunity for you And if you're interested, then let's talk about it. If not now, then you can have my direct number. You can call me. I don't do banker's hours. What does that mean? I get calls all the time, and I answer my phone, right? So that might be an option for you. I also help you if you're interested in going to college. We talked about resources. Ruth mentioned resources. We're also a resource. So we also help you with that as well. Now, what is my why? Y'all thought I forgot to mention that, right? So 15 years into being in the military, people used to ask me all the time, what happens to the kids that get kicked out of basic training? And I very arrogantly would respond, I don't know, that's not my lane. And guess what? It became my lane. So the job that I had an opportunity to do was to become a recruiter. I'd already been doing it. I was all over the world. Everywhere I traveled, I'd take my uniform. I would go to high schools and get permission before I went to go in and talk to the young people, tell them what I do, and inspire them as another option in life. And in the process of that, the recruiting job that they said, you are like cream on coffee, we want you. All my friends saw me as a drill sergeant. I didn't want to do it. I'd already did all this time working at the prison. Why would I want to be a drill sergeant screaming at people all day long? I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But they set it up for me to have an interview. So y'all ready for this? So when I went in for the interview, because they wouldn't let me off the hook. So I went in and I said, I'm already going to be a recruiter. I'm just doing this because they asked me to. I'm not really interested in the job. And they said, oh, okay. So they talked me for a few minutes just so we could check the box, and I went on about my business. I was done because I knew I was going to be a recruiter. And I got a call one day. I'll never forget. It was a rainy day. I was driving down the street. I was on my way to a part-time job, and I got a call that said, we went through your file. We saw an injury 10 years ago that don't have nothing to do with nothing. And they said, we decided we're not going to let you be a recruiter. I was devastated. I had to pull over the side of the road. My makeup was gorgeous. It was all coming down my face. I had to get myself together because I had about 15 minutes to get to work. I made just about 2 or 3 calls telling people my story. And they said, well, Rosalind, you already interviewed for the job. Why are you tripping? I said, I told them people I didn't want that job. They said, well, what's your backup plan? So after work, I got myself together and I called and I said, I know y'all don't remember me, but I'm the one who said I didn't want to work for y'all. He said, oh yeah, we remember you. And I said, by any chance do y'all have a position available? He said, one with your name on it. Amen. And so we talk about faith and we talk about doors opening up and some shutting. That was the avenue and a door opened up. Why? Because when I became a military training instructor in the military, the last position I had was with the children, the youth, the kids, our future that was getting kicked out of the military. And that little arrogant member that I told y'all about that went in and said, that's not my lane. When I went in and felt the pressure on those young people, and I sat and listened to phone calls when they called their parents and said, I have to tell you that I'm coming back home. And mama said, well, you better figure it out because you're grown now. I've already changed your room. And I went home and cried. And God made it my lane. And I didn't know what to do. And then they said, we need you to create 3 programs to help these kids because they're lost. So you're going to have to figure it out. And I just went home and cried. And I said, I feel overwhelmed. I laid on the floor prostrate and cried out and said, I can't do it without you. And then one day I went into work and Job Corps walked in. And I said, oh, I got to go listen to what they have to say. They went to the front of the room. They talked for about 10 or 15 minutes. And by the time I got out of my office and went in to listen, they were done. I said, oh, no, come in here and talk to me. They came in and I said, tell me what you do. I've heard of Job Corps for years. But what I heard was that was the place where you sent the bad kids, right? So I listened, and they spent about 45 minutes to an hour talking to me on fire. And I said, do you realize if you'd spent that time with those young people, you'd have a line going out the door because they're desperate. They don't know what to do. And so I then got on the computer and started making calls, and people were hanging up on me when I was sharing with them what I do. And I came across a lady, and her name is Lynn. I hope to meet her someday out of Washington, D.C. And she said, "Oh, Rosalind, you're working way too hard, honey. Do you have a computer?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Go here, go here, go here, go here. You see this? Ask for this person. Tell them what you told me and watch and see what happens." And from that day forward, I have been making connections with Job Corps, and now we are connected to 10 Job Corps in the United States. I do random cold calls because y'all can tell I'm shy. And I call and I talk until my spirit lines up with their spirit. And I have people embedded in every Job Corps that are my eyes. They're my sisters, they're my brothers, and they got eyes on you. And so at no time do I not know what's going on with you. Why do I say that? Because right now we have young people that we help go to Job Corps. My population is aging out foster care. My population is juvenile justice. I work with judges. I work with attorneys. Kids that get out of juvie, they're on probation for 90 days or parole. I work with them the entire 90 days. Once they get out, then I help them go to a Job Corps as well. I work with high school. I work with dropouts. I help with runaways. They call me all the time. So I help all kids. And just so you know, I don't do kids, but kids do me. And I'm like a kid magnet, and they find me. And so why am I here now? I'm here to tell you that there's another resource out there. I want to tell you that right now we have, in San Antonio, Texas, I have 5 partnered houses that often those kids that come out of the military, they say, "I don't want to go back home. There's nothing for me. I was homeless when I came in. This was my last resort, and I thought the military was going to work out for me." So those young people, those runaways, those kids that are in aging out foster care that don't have a place to go, CPS calls me, DPS calls me. I have all of these agencies calling me because their focus in San Antonio when they turn 17 and they turn 18 is to be put in a SEAL program, supervised independent living. But what if that young person doesn't want to go to college? What if they don't want to have a job and work? They call me. They call me and I get to help them get into college. I get to help them go to military. I get to help them go to Job Corps. And I have, just to name 5, I have a young person from Puerto Rico that's now in Job Corps. I have a young person right now in New Jersey, right now in Job Corps. I have one flying out next week from New York, going to Job Corps. So I'm nationwide. I have kids in California. I have kids all over the nation. There's no place too far. What do I do when I send you to Job Corps? I send you to Job Corps with the intention that you do 2 or 3 trades. My intention is that you're there for 2 to 3 years. When you're there for 2 to 3 years, I'm writing you letters, I'm calling you, I'm contacting you. I am sending you care packages of different things that you might like. I'll send you everything but Takis because they have chemicals on them and they're killing kids. True story. So I'll send you your snacks. I'll send you your different things that you want. While you're there and you let me know that you graduated, I will come to your graduation. I don't care where you are in the nation. I'm coming. And then from there, you go into job placement. Just for the record, Job Corps does not pay me to be here. I believe in their program and I know it works. Yes, I have a lot of things at my table that do represent Job Corps. However, at this stage, and it's coming, they're going to make me their ambassador because I believe in it that much. Job Corps offers 127 different trades. It's federally funded. You live there for free. The food is free. You can work a part-time job while you're there, but it's self-paced. While you're there, you can get your high school diploma. If you don't have it, or your GED, you have a choice. You can also get your driver's license while you're there. But in San Antonio, we are on Loop 410, and I'm teaching kids how to drive. So park your cars if you come to San Antonio, because I'm old school. I put them in the driver's seat, and I'm in the passenger seat. And I just give instructions as we drive, and all of them pass. And so there's a lot of things that we're doing with our program, but ultimately our goal is to have our own transition home. Someone mentioned and asked about our cloth that we have on there. All of those things that you see on there are programs that we have. We have a women's ministry, we have a men's ministry, we have a lot of different things. But I do want to mention I am in volume 2 and volume 3, I think page 159 and 129. And so in volume 2, when I initially met Dr. Kay Kaiser and Melissa, they were talking to me about writing in the book. And I said, I don't think I'm qualified. And then the Holy Spirit reminded me of how I had raised my girlfriend's kids at one point. And in that, those children walked into my house with black plastic bags. And so that's what my chapter is actually titled, The Big Black Plastic Bags. And so the last thing that I want to do is I want to introduce one of our recent graduates. He actually just graduated on Friday. Yeah. And he actually hails from Texas, but he went to Job Corps in Kansas. And he was a little reluctant. I'm going to let him tell his story. We're just going to take a couple of more minutes of your time. But it's important when you can actually see a success story. Because I can say a lot of stuff up here, but when you actually can see the product and he can share from a youth standpoint. And so when we have a whole lot of these, our young people that are graduating and doing phenomenal, I want you to tell you, because I have that connection inside, constantly got calls about how phenomenal he was doing. When I went to his graduation, it was like a proud mama. Ruth had talked about all the different mentors and mamas that you have. This baby, he has a lot of mamas and grandmas, and I'm almost 60. So I fit in all those capacities, y'all. I'm the mama, sometimes I'm the auntie, I'm the cousin sometime when I'm cool, right? But and I fuss at them. And I also tell all my kids, don't make me come where you are and choke you out, because I will. And I'll get back on the plane and go back wherever I'm at. And they know I mean business. But at the end of the day, I'm really proud of him. I'll say just a couple of things, and I want him to talk, and I want to honor your time. So the one thing I want to say is that, don't you cry. One of the things I want to say about him is that I am so godly proud of you. You are just on your way. Y'all, he is opening up chapters and doing things, and he is breaking, all of the things that society says you can't do. He was not in the adoption system, but he's experienced kinship. And that's important too. For those of you who don't know, sometimes the grandma's got to step in and the family members got to step in. So this is a product of a success story. And do you want to share with them what you're going for and all of that? Because I'm just going to give you the floor.
You can do it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is our young man. His name is Shamar. And he is definitely in the age group of 16 to 24. He can share with you his age. And he does have college behind him. Okay, so he had some college and decided college was not for him, right? But in the future, he may go back. But for this season right now, it's not for him. And so we actually talked a year prior about him going to Job Corps. He didn't want to hear nothing I had to say. But when he was ready, then he contacted me back again and said, you know what, Miss Ross, I think I'm ready for this now. And so we talked it through. I really spend time with you. I vet you. I want to know, what do you want to do? What are you willing to do that you would do for free, right? Because a lot of us ended up in jobs and careers, and we went to school and we did all this stuff. And now we're sitting there going, I don't even like this, right? So I want to get them in the beginning and find out, what is it that you're willing to do that you wake up and you do, and man, you can't wait to get there. Right? And so he chose dental technician. He's going to tell you a little bit about that experience. And then from dental technician, that's my first trade, right? Then his second trade, because I want you to do at least two, because I want you marketable, right? So then his second trade, which is the one he's passionate about, he decided to do advanced transportation. What does that mean? It is so broad. Well, he chose aviation. Why? How many of y'all fly? How many of y'all flew to come here? He's going to be a flight attendant, y'all. Right? Yeah. And then he's going to go back, and then he's going to go back and look at either looking back into dental or doing something else. But the thing about it is, you have a year to finish a trade. So if you go in there and it's self-paced and you put your head down and you focus, you can knock out 2 trades in a year, easy. And then once you complete a trade, you get an additional year, which is your advance. So you really have 3 years to really figure out life and grow up. And I'm going to encourage you to stay there. I'm going to be like, no, you ain't going back home. Stay there. Stay there. You ain't going nowhere, And so, and then I go out and visit and have dinner with you and lunch or whatever I need to do. And I'm just all in your business. So, but I'm going to give him the floor. Say whatever you want to say. Share whatever you want to share. Yes. Did y'all hear that? He said they don't need to hear you. They need to hear me. Here, take it off and I'll help you put it on. Okay.
Thank God, good morning. I heard her tell y'all a little bit about my grandmother and the way like I was raised. My grandmother ended up getting custody of me come high school, and I actually lived with her, and it was a whole process from moving out from my mom into my grandma's house. Over there, it was when like we really started going to forcing church. My grandma, she not forcing, but it was more of the option to go was more drastic, and then I ended up not. But it was something that was good and that helped. At my mom's house, it was like my decision. But at grandma's, it was like, okay, guys, like early in the morning, it's not just me getting up by myself. It's everybody gets up, Bible study, church. Even I remember sometimes I went to choir rehearsal. It was a lot. A few like ended up going to. She told you I went to college. It took me a year and a half to really decide that that's not what I wanted to do. And fortunately, that did leave me in a place of that. But now, years later, I was living by myself. And I remember my grandma called me. She was telling me about Mr. Rosalind Job Corps. And it did take a lot. I sat there and I was like, I'm not gonna go to no facility where they want me to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I have to be up and ready by 7, and then spend all day doing a trade. It took me, she said, about a year to really just sit down and decide, you know what, I'm not doing anything with my life. I'm given this great opportunity to go to this place. And then we went through the entire process. I signed up. I remember the first day I ever saw her on a video phone call, and she just asked me what I wanted to do. And verbatim, I said, I don't know. I went from trying to get a business degree in finance to like, oh, what do I want to do? And she asked me, she sat me down and she gave a long, long list of trades. And I remember when I heard her say dental, I lit up because I always loved going to the dentist as a child. And it was more about like, oh, you know, you have such nice teeth. So I was like, okay, I can't wait to like do that with somebody. So I took the opportunity, and I remember the first day I got there even having to fly. That was one of the scariest things. I don't know if has anybody in here been to Kansas? Oh, yay. So I have never seen as many controlled burns in my entire life. I was up in the sky looking down and I thought the world was on fire. I called my mom and I was like, I'm ready to go home. This was up on landing on the plane. I already made my first phone call begging to go home because I didn't know what was going on. I remember when I first got on the facility and I had to wait just to like meet everybody. They have you go through 2 weeks, which you are with your original teacher and all of your classmates, and they call those your day ones. Anybody who you spend your first little 2 weeks with, those are your day ones, and those are some of the closest connections you have. I remember me and mine, we actually graduated. Me and the one that lasted actually graduated on the same day, and I got to say goodbye to her, but I can't wait to go back and ask her how it is. You were given that first week, and then you're going into the trade exploration, in which they actually let you see all the different trades. At the center I was at, they had dental, CNA, CDL, which is certified driver's license, and CNA is certified nursing assistant. They had BCT, plumbing, and do you remember the last one?
Carpentry.
And carpentry. So it's a bunch of different things that they have to offer for a bunch of different kids. And I just went to the one in Manhattan. I just went to one center. And even with that same center, I was able to watch so many people earn their GEDs. And I even learned my own driver's license from there. GEDs, the high school diplomas, they actually give you the option to go out and go be somebody. The only thing is, there is a catch. You have to be serious about what you want and what you're willing to do for your future. Now, it is self-paced. The teachers won't sit there and hold your hand the entire time. Whatever you choose to do, that is going to have to be your decision. You have to get up in the morning. You have to be able to do your work. You have to be able to keep being persistent. There were kids who was there before me that are still there after me, after I am gone. And even with that, Job Corps, even upon ending, you have CTRs, and those are the people who help you transition out. So even with getting a job, they help you with that. They help you with getting a job. They help you with getting housing after. You were given 12 weeks after you finish your trade to save up your money, and they will help you with getting a job, getting a car, going to college if you want to. Job Corps isn't something that like just drops once you're there. It's something that helps you provide for the rest of your future and do what you want to do. I think that's all. Does anybody have any questions about Job Corps or anything like that? Yes.
I actually just graduated from Job Corps, so I
Congratulations.
What trades did you get?
I have got hotel and lodging, but I'm actually going to go back in a year to advance to do airline, to be a attendant. My CDL and manufacturing and distribution.
Serious?
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
What have you decided to do what's your next stage, and will you be in volume 4?
Me?
I can answer that. Are you talking about this platform?
Yes.
He is going to be traveling with us in between him doing his studies and the things that he needs to do. The good thing about it is at some point he's going to be a flight attendant, so he'll be able to fly in for free, y'all. We drove in. So he'll be able to fly. And so we're just real excited about that. I don't know if Dr. Kaiser alluded to, we are focused on youth, and so for those of you that are in here that have a story that you want to share, and so we are expecting him, you know, at some point when he's comfortable to be able to share his story so that he can be a part of our youth series. So yes, absolutely, he is going to be a part of our
Yes.
ma'am.
So I work with a lot of youth who could honestly benefit from this. Like I was writing down names and like all the benefits and stuff. But I also know that they're going to be probably in a place like where you were when you first heard about it. What is something that, like she said, that when you were thinking back a year later, that was like, you know what, I do want to do this. What words stuck with you, resonated with you, that was
Me up and down, y'all didn't see the eyeball me.
a motivating factor, I guess, to make that decision?
I think even around this time, I heard like the name of the nonprofit organization. It's already done. So even with that, I was sitting there and I was just like at home doing nothing, living off of like Section 8 and food stamps. Like I'm just at home all day. I couldn't get a job in the place that I was at. So it was like I kept on thinking to myself, I need to do something. It was that pull and that drive. Like I'm unhappy with where I am, and there are opportunities out there. And instead of trying to ponder on that, it's already done. Just kept on coming to my mind. It's already done. You already have everything that you need. It's offered. You already heard about it, and I was just me having to decide, like, let it be done.
I just have a quick comment about that same thing. Last year, this same time, I gave this whole spiel to my now 18-year-old next week, and she wanted to hear nothing about Job Corps. She's like, "Why are you trying to send me away?" And she was kind of in the same space of like just existing. This year, within the next 2 weeks, she should be moving in. We went to go see the campus, and so say that to say that you plant the seed and you continue to water it. Ultimately, like he said, they're going to get to that point where their back gets up against the wall and they're tired of being where they are, and that's when they're going to reach out. And so it's not an immediate thing. Every child is different, and sometimes they really just got to sit with it until they feel, because Job Corps isn't what it was when I was younger. It was when I was 20 years ago, it was a place you shipped them off to, the ones that you couldn't handle. It's not like that anymore. You have to want it. When you get to Job Corps, they don't want to see the parent. The orientation is with the child. The child has to say, I want this. I want to make a change. They don't have to have it all together, but they have to say, this is where I want to be. And so, thank goodness there are people like Rosalind who are continuously plant seed, show the information, talk about the stipend that the children get, and all of the support and how they just don't give up on them, because that's what makes anyone.
And I do want to mention that if anybody in here is interested in knowing more about Job Corps, and I kind of said something earlier, but I want to make sure I foot stomp it. Yes, you can go on the website. Yes, you can sign up. But if you do, I can't touch you, okay? Because I'm nationwide, I can help you through the entire process. I can vet it, I can vet you. Because if you do it in your local community, they're only going to encourage you to go to the one that's within your neighborhood. There are 127 opportunity trades. I don't let you stay in your community. I make you move. I want you to walk in with your butt tight Your mouth quiet and focus. Focus. I don't let girls talk about no boys because they in the same situation as you, jacked up. And then boys, the girls are cute, but they ain't about nothing. Leave them alone. If they're not in that graduation line with you, don't mess with them. And you're going to hear me saying that. And I'm real serious. I say I'm not direct, but they say I am. Stay focused. Stay focused. Stay focused. And I'm going to keep reminding you about your why. Stay focused. I'm prepared to come to your graduation. You better let me come. You better not be up in there doing all kind of foolishness. Any additional questions? If not, we are going to yield the floor. Oh, yes, ma'am.
So we're going to do a raffle really quick, and then we'll pass it over
Yes.
to Shalane.
Thank you so much for your time. God bless y'all.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Y'all doing all right today? All right, all right. Well, I've passed around some stuff, pieces of stuff. Feel free to pass it around. And I'll go into what that is a little bit later on. You probably may have seen it before, probably trying to figure out what in the world is going on. My name is Shalina, and I'm excited to be here, honored to be here. I grew up in the South Carolina foster care system, 17 years. Sounds like a prison sentence, but, but it was a journey. So I want to read some stuff real quick, and then I'm going to get into my why, and we'll go from there, okay? All right. Daddy's little girl. Before I could understand anything about my life as a foster child, I remember a few earlier childhood memories. These accounts include spending time with my father, staying with a local foster parent, and attending a local daycare. I was an 80s baby, born January 12, 1984. I feel that's quite a long time, but I was carefree. Although I was quite young, I definitely remember these points when writing. It's funny how these memories may assume to a child to be too young to understand anything. So raise your hand if you have a childhood memory that people say, well, you're too young to remember that. Raise your hand. All right, we're gonna go around the room. What was a childhood memory you remember, and was it okay to share? Is it okay to share? Okay, what's your childhood memory?
I used to go to the pool with my grandma, and she passed away when I was 5,
so. Okay, thank you for sharing. She said she used to go to the pool with her grandmother, but she passed away when she was 5, but that's a beautiful memory. You remember your grandmother. Who else? Who else has a memory that they want to share? Oh, like you got one. I'm going to wait till you finish. right back here in the back.
So I have a grandmother story too. So I used to walk to the store and recycle bottle soda pop in glass bottles for 5 cents. And people say, you too young to remember something like that.
Awesome memory. Thank you for sharing that. And that time in recycling and with your mom, your grandma. I'm like, come on now.
Bottles back to the grocery store and get 5 cents each bottle off your next pack.
Listen, you was rich. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share a childhood memory? All right. And so why am I talking about childhood memories and just daddy's little girl and what's going on with this? Well, my why is as I grew up in the foster care system and became an adult, I kept hearing about all the negative things associated with foster youth, foster care, communities that we associate with. You may have come from an underserved community. You may have had just grandmother in the household, kinship care. And a lot of times as we are associated with the foster, adoption, orphan, marginalized communities, our stories don't always be put in the most positive light. News, media, what have you. As I grew, I kept asking, well, where are the positive stories out there? I know there's some people out here that's like go-getters. You may have stumbled and tripped and whatnot, but people remember the bad things you used to do. I want to hear where are the good memories, like your grandma, like my dad. You know, where are those memories? And so I would ask questions locally to the people around me, and a lot of times I was made to feel as if you have to have a PhD to ask that question. You have to be at the top of your class to ask that question. Well, you came from that background. Why are you asking that question? Why not ask that question? My why was to figure out what storylines were out there. I did my research. I found some, handful, okay? And then as I grew in wanting to know what storylines were out there, I realized, you know what? I got an idea to write a book. Fostered was birthed 5 years before it was published. It was published in 2018. Fostered now can be found on Amazon.com. This is my very first memoir, which is adding to the books that's floating around, the Faces of Foster Care anthology series. I'm now an author in volumes 2 and 3, soon to be 4. And look at our shirts, y'all. Aren't they cool? Yes. So my why is to help now create the achievement narrative for these communities, because I was tired of hearing, yes, stuff happens, yes, we go through life, we all do, yes, we have setbacks, and yes, it's not always positive, but even if you've been through the ringer, even if, you know, grandma passed, even if you don't know who your grandparents is, or your dad, your mom, we want to help create those memories that you can still achieve a positive narrative. And so, Fostered was born, and that's what I just read from. I'm going to pass this around. And I'm going to show you some pictures as well, real quick. I appreciate your time and your patience and really being here, right? Okay, I'm going to pass around some more memories, all right? So these are some memories going down memory lane. When I was in foster care, I was just like you. Different points in my life, we're going to pass them around. And if you land on a picture, and feel free to hold it up, because I want you to like ask some questions. I want to answer some questions about these pictures. So feel free, if anybody has a question about that picture, just raise your hand and we'll go from there. All right, so continuing on with the achievement narrative, right? I was a Disney kid. Anybody in here is a Disney kid? Grew up on Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. Back in the day with me, it was called Nick Jr., Maya the Bee, Are You Afraid of the Dark, all that crazy stuff. Anybody remember Rugrats? Yeah. Rugrats. So I grew up in that era, and as a kid, I would look at cartoons, Disney, and I kind of got lost in an escape of wanting to go there, wanting to be there, because of course on TV and movies, everything seems carefree, dolled up, and you feel like you have a sense of belonging. So when you're in the foster care situation, the adoption situation, the orphan situation, or underserved situation, you don't always feel as if you belong, or as if you have the resources you need, or as if somebody even cares, or even if you have a voice. And so I found my escape there. And so writing my story, which is floating around Fostered, has been a true journey of really helping me to discover that, you know what, if I can find a way to write my story, even though it took 5 years, because I tend to be a perfectionist. I write, oh no, that's wrong, I want to change it, I want to change it, I want to change it. Anybody like that? You keep writing, you got to keep going back and change. There's nothing wrong with that. It means your creativity and your juices are flowing. So it took 5 years to write that book, and then I finally published it with a self-publisher or publisher, and not knowing what it would do, what it would say, who it would help, if anybody. Next thing I know, I got feedback asking me, where's the sequel? I'm like, oh, somebody want a sequel? Okay, I got notebooks, but I don't got nothing ready. And as life does happen, time passed from that moment of where's your sequel to, okay, 3 years done passed, 5 years done passed. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I'm gonna go write again. But life happened in that midst of my sequel to new beginnings began to happen. Yes, writing wouldn't come back for me around until another 5 years later after that memoir. Why? Because I was on a new journey. I had gotten through school. Anybody know about the Gamecocks? USC? Okay, raise your hand, USC. No? Okay, okay. We know you may not like the team. Okay, that's okay. But anyway, that was a journey in itself. I dove into education. I dove into higher ed. So if anybody want to know about how to get into college, I got some skills there too. And, you know, I used to be a college advisor. I can help you there too. And so I basically took on those roles, took on those mantles, and really divinely was placed there to not only be there as a listener, but to let others know that, you know what, you may have come from foster, adoption, orphan, marginalized back here, but guess what, your story matters, your journey matters, and I'm here to help you with that. So now helping others to tell their stories, I can help others continue telling their stories with short films that's in creation, books, and pictures that you see. So I'm gonna pause right there because I get excitable, I ramble. Anybody has a question about a picture that they see? Raise that up. Okay. That picture right there. You like, what in the world are you doing?
I feel like, as you know, growing up, all girls have some type of picture like
Yes.
that. In that age, something at the front of a dresser.
Yes. You know what?
Hand on a hip or something.
That's right. You know what? Somebody told me to strike a pose, and I was like, okay. And that was a memory. I was my very last foster home. My foster mother, she just passed 2 years ago. Beautiful home, beautiful lady and family. That was my very last foster home, and they basically was a foster home for the community, not just myself, but they raised the community, and they fed everyone. If you needed a place to stay, if you needed a listening ear, phenomenal family that I was with. But in that home, my very first day, they told me, kind of walk around. I want you to walk around and see if this is a place you want to be. I'm not going to tell you to stay here. I'm going to give you a choice. And so I came in defeated because some stuff happened. I got caught up with some knucklehead guy in another place, and that's another story. But came in, I felt defeated, felt like I was unworthy to be somewhere else. And so coming into that situation, she said, just walk around, go visit the rooms. I saw her grandsons, and they was fascinated with something called a PlayStation, and I got excited because I wanted to play the game with them as well. And they kept chanting, "Get out of our room!" And I was like, "Okay, I'm going." And so it's like the story continued of, if you want to stay here, you can stay here. And then I said, I want to stay here. And then that's where I graduated from. That's where I got through high school from. That's where I got through the University of South Carolina from. 2006 to 2009, that was my family. And it was a journey of, you know what, I'm creating new memories. Stuff happened back here, but now I can create new memories. USC was part of my journey. Midlands Tech is part of my journey. Now I got an MBA. Now I got a business, some kind of business degree. And, and I'm riding with this amazing group, thank you, Faces of Foster Care. Yes, okay, so that picture floating around. So you're going to see a picture of me in water. You can't see me, but I'm in the water. That's growth as an adult. Earlier on, it was said, and we're not here to push any beliefs on anyone, but in our personal journeys, we have something in common. We've discovered, our own spiritual journey of who we are, why we're here. And so a lot of those things will be reflected in our writings and our whys and really our progression. I was getting baptized. So that was a church I was attending at the time, and they baptized me. That was my very first baptism. So that's what that picture is, a memory.
How old were you in that?
How old was I? I had to been in my early 20s, still trying to figure out life, trying to figure out who am I, why I'm here, what's my purpose. And that came from years of trying to survive. Why am I here? Coming out of foster care, trying to survive. Your next speaker, you're going to hear that real raw testimony of, we go through foster care, but a lot of times we're out there from foster care, and it's like, how do we heal and mend and progress forward? A lot of that's that. Okay, anybody else has any other questions about the pictures or books you see?
I actually had a question about your book.
Yeah.
So I noticed, is this your personal copy?
Yes.
I noticed there is passages that are highlighted.
Yes.
Or little notes in it, and I was just wondering if that's because of self-reflection, or is it because you're going back and trying to rewrite stuff?
Yeah.
What that was.
Thank you so much for asking that. So you do see the highlights. That was my beginning of going back and reflecting on a lot, but also preparation for future writings and carrying forth, okay, what lessons did I learn here in those writings? What memories or whatnot that may be positive that I could pull as a reflection to the next reader who may not have heard about Foster yet. They're coming in on the sequel and they're like, wait a minute, where's this coming from? Oh, it's back in volume 1. So that's what that was. But thank you for asking about that. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Melissa Valenzuela. She calls me chaplain because my day job, I work with hospice patients, so I'm a chaplain for hospice. And it's a beautiful journey. It's interesting because I grew up in different facilities in the foster care system, 5, and now I work with people at the end of their life, and they're in facilities, and they're still trapped in memories, emotions, feelings, thoughts. So I'm going to start out by asking you a question. Are you free? I would like for all of us to think about this before you answer. Only you know the answer to this question. Were you once in foster care? What kind of experience did you have? Was it a positive or negative one? And if you weren't in foster care, but you helped to raise those in your home, or you yourself will even relate to some of the things that I'm going to speak about in this message here. You don't have to be in foster care, and it's not by accident that you're in this room. Yes, this conference was set up, but once again, if we follow and we surrender ourselves and we say that Jesus is our Lord, and I'm not pushing religion, I'm not pushing any religion, I'm not pushing anything. All I'm doing is sharing what he means to me and how he is the only one that could help me out of the situation that I was in. The title of this message is Free But Still Trapped. I was in the foster care system for a brief period of time when I was 9 years old, then in an extended amount of time from the age of 11 to 18. I was bounced between one shelter, one family, 3 30-day placements, and 2 long-term children's homes. Life in these places is nothing like what it looks like on the outside. Many of the children are so fragile and broken depending on the amount and kind of trauma they have lived through. Others are rebels and bullies because they don't know how to process their emotions and make sense of what has happened to them up to this short point in their lives. They often are filled with a long list that includes fear, rejection, hurt, pain, anguish, abandonment, sorrow, unforgiveness, unworthiness, anger, depression, anxiety, grief, suicidal tendencies, and trauma. I was filled with all these things and had deep trust issues. I learned to withdraw and self-isolate as a way of safeguarding myself. I was placed in the foster care system so that I could be protected and cared for properly. I was taken out of a life where I experienced physical, mental, sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse that started when I was 3 years old. Unfortunately, my mother chose not to protect me. Would foster care keep me safe? The answer to this question is no. I would endure more trauma and abuse from adults and children my age and older. I was sent to different therapists to get healed from that long list that I mentioned. I tried to work with each therapist until I realized that our sessions only brought more pain and trauma instead of healing. I was forced to go to these sessions. I was escorted by 2 caseworkers that threatened to take matters into their own hands and use violence if I refused to go. I eventually learned to tell my therapist what they wanted to hear, and they declared me healed. I no longer needed to attend the sessions. I was far from being healed. I was worse off than when I first started going to see them. Would I ever experience healing, I wondered? Yes, I would, but it wouldn't be the way I expected. Much later in life, I would enter into a relationship with Jesus, and through a long process, I would find healing. Part of this process would include going through deliverance. I started this message with a question: are you free? At the age of 18, I left foster care. I was free, but I was still trapped. I was fortunate to have a job and a place to live. This is not the same for everyone aging out. I looked at the statistics of what happens to kids when they age out of the system, and it's heartbreaking. Several end up pregnant before the age of 21, or in the sex industry, or instantly homeless or incarcerated. Very few earn a college degree. I want to make it very clear that I'm in no way trying to say anything negative against therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, or counselors. I am only sharing my personal experience and how I wasn't helped through those methods. We all know that the system is broken. The statistics plainly speak for themselves. I was trapped emotionally and mentally. I needed spiritual healing that only Jesus could provide. I didn't know this at the time. Spiritual issues can't be solved with physical solutions. I tried unhealthy coping mechanisms such as drinking, eating, sex, and risky behavior. I had temporary results with more problems. I didn't know what to do or where to turn for help. I was a mess, but did the best I could on my own. What else could I do? How can you undo what has already been done? I chose to accept Jesus as my Lord, and things started to change for me. This seemed strange to me at first. I never knew God and was not sure if he was real. I found out that not only is he real, but that it's not his fault for what happened to me. I used to blame him for not intervening and rescuing me. I came to the false conclusion that I wasn't worthy to be saved and that whatever happened to me, I deserved. This was a lie that was planted by our enemy, the devil. There were many lies that I grew up believing about myself. Over time, I allowed God to take me through the process of deliverance. He showed me the truth behind each lie. The first thing I had to do was recognize that I was a sinner. I had to stop focusing on what was done to me and acknowledge that I needed to change. Wait, what? It wasn't my fault, the things that happened to me. I didn't ask to be abused daily. This is true, but my mindset had to undergo reconstruction. My mind was stuck in a dark place. Once I acknowledged that I was a sinner, then I realized that I needed Jesus as my Savior. My focus had to shift so that my healing could begin. God's kingdom, thoughts, and ways are different than what we are used to. Any time that we want change to occur, it usually begins with us first. Isaiah 55, 8 through 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. God sees and knows things that we don't. I chose to trust him and allowed him to start the reconstruction process. I surrendered and gave him permission to renew and transform my mind, as it says in Romans 12:2. And do not be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourselves what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for each one of you. I had to surrender my mind and thoughts to God because I only knew one way to think, and it wasn't good. There are times that I wanted justice to be done for what I had to go through, all the while knowing that would never happen. I often thought about possible ways of getting revenge. I most definitely wasn't thinking on godly values, and my attitude was not ethical. There was a battle that raged within me, a battle that kept defeating me. Through the process, I would learn that the battle belongs to the Lord. Though the battle belongs to the Lord, we still must fight alongside him. This is not a physical fight, but a spiritual one, as mentioned in Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, contending only with physical opponents, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly, supernatural places. This is where knowing and understanding spiritual rules comes into play. Before our military goes to war, they do extensive study and research on their enemy. The same with sports teams and boxers. Before they engage with their opponent, they study their habits, their playing/fighting styles, strengths, and weaknesses. Our enemy, the devil, prowls around like a hungry, fierce lion, searching for ways to devour us. He has a kingdom and many demonic entities and unclean spirits that are assigned to do his bidding. He also has what are called familiar spirits that are assigned to study us individually. They know our habits, strengths, and weaknesses. This means that they know what kind of temptation, snares, and traps to set before us to keep us feeling defeated. I was exhausted from feeling defeated. I was tired of being depressed and crying. I was fed up with being angry, bitter, and fearful. I decided to break all agreements, vows, and covenants that I had made with that long list that I mentioned. in reference to the trauma and abuse I experienced. I started with unforgiveness. I had to forgive my stepfather and my mother. This was extremely difficult because I didn't agree with the idea of releasing them from what they had done to me. It was not fair. I chose to trust God and surrender all unforgiveness to Him. I also had to work through forgiving myself. God revealed the lies that I believed as we continued to work through the list. He also showed me the false burdens I was carrying. Once I conquered unforgiveness, it got easier to work through the list. I had to surrender and let go of each thing. As I did, the enemy had to release me because his rights to hold me in bondage were broken, and he could no longer torment me with that list. I started to walk in freedom and experience healing. In order to stay delivered and keep my healing, I have to be careful not to fall back into old patterns and mindsets. I have to speak positive things to myself instead of the old familiar lies. Our words have power, both positive and negative. I have learned to speak God's word over myself. I make a conscious effort to believe what I speak and expect it to be so. This is how you come into agreement with God. Speak His word over yourself and choose to believe it. Let His word wash over you and transform your mind. Allow Him to set you free and keep you free. Now I'll ask again, are you free? This ends my message, but I thank y'all for staying. And if y'all have any questions, I'll answer your questions.